Action.
Christophe Rocancourt, laissez-moi vous raconter l'histoire de ma vie.
Qui êtes-vous?
La caravane, elle était là. Avec ma mère, je venais à la messe ici. On était pauvres, hein, on n'avait rien. Je m'échappais, je rêvais. Et la Renard qui nous donnait à manger me disait qu'un jour ça serait meilleur.
Parcours hors du commun.
Ça l'a été.
Quand on démarre comme ça dans la vie, on peut que partir vers le haut.
L'enfance, c'est la détermination de ce que tu vas être plus tard.
Ça l'a endurci tout de suite.
Et c'est là que je commence à comprendre qu'il y a un peu d'argent.
Psychologie particulièrement affinée.
La qualité première, c'est l'instant.
Il y a qu'un Rocancourt, il est imprévisible.
Moi, mes deux ressorts, ils étaient là. Ou mourir ou vivre. La main de Dieu a été de mon côté puisqu'il m'a laissé vivre. L'épopée Rocancourt à l'arrêt. Je suis le playboy, tout le monde veut être avec.
He could charm anybody.
Van Damme est là, Mickey Rourke est là, tout showbiz me dit bonjour, je vais aux Oscars, on était dans le Pump It Up. À l'époque, j'ai 2 millions de dollars en parking de voiture, je suis déjà monté de temps haut. Le State contacte le FBI et le FBI se met sur moi.
Braqueur de cerveau.
La peur n'évite pas de danger.
Une adrénaline qu'il n'y a pas. Je n'ai jamais revu Rocancourt, ni les 17 millions de l'époque.
Here's a Frenchman claiming he's an heir to Rockefeller.
Personne n'a vérifié.
Christopher Rockefeller,
Au revoir, plus belle évasion, on n'a jamais revu. Je suis sur toutes les télés.
especially in New York.
And he notes that Rocancourt is
Je suis inquiet. La seule question que j'ai, c'est est-ce qu'ils vont pas me buter, leur aimer la rage. Ils vont pas aimer le petit Frenchie qui se balade comme ça. Prison effrayante. Il y avait Jimmy Hoffa, John Gotti, le haut de gamme du grand banditisme, la mafia new-yorkaise. En prison, le sentiment n'existe pas.
C'est un rock qui peut un peu lui faire peur.
Un rendez-vous loupé. On avait tellement de choses à se dire.
Il a souvent été accusé à tort d'infraction et blanchi par la justice, ce que peu de gens savent.
Non mais c'était drôle de...
Je pourrais pas le refaire aujourd'hui dans les conditions.
Personne. C'est pour ça que l'histoire reste mythique. Ça peut pas être refait.
Qu'est-ce que tu penses que Dieu pourrait dire de toi ou pense de toi?
Tu été un mauvais garçon, je te pardonne.
You know what happened? What happened?
You're watching Now in News. I'm your host Marina Kufa. Today at the movie premiere Rocancourt, and I'm here with the director and the producer, David Serero. David, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you to you, my dear Marina. It's an honor.
Thank you. I'd like to know what drew you to Rocancourt's story. It's very controversial.
Absolutely. Well, it's a story I've been knowing for almost 20 years because I kind of grew up with that story. He was this Frenchman who was the kind of catch me if you can of friends, you know, in America, was wanted by the FBI. It was such a crazy story that I felt needed to be treated and needed to be told. And I felt I was in the right place because, you know, I remember him in the US 20 years ago, but also, you know, I'm French, I'm very influenced by the American culture, by the American filmmaking, so I felt I could do a good job, and he is very happy, and I'm very happy.
Okay, so let's go from the beginning, because he was also French, right?
Yeah.
He moved to the United States and pretend to be a Rockefeller.
Exactly.
So now to trace the whole story and trace the person, how did you do that?
Well, I was very lucky to have a long interview with him and many interviews, and he took me to the places where he grew up, and it was very important to understand not just when he arrived to LA, but to understand his childhood and to understand even prior to that, to understand with his parents. So you can, you know, I always say that every person is the result of an equation, you know, so you have to understand the whole equation. If you remove one thing, if you remove his childhood, if you remove his parents, Rockefeller came way later, but before he passed himself for a prince, for a champion of boxing, for, you know, he did so many things, but his story is so unique and it cannot be done again, because today if you say you are Rockefeller, you are this, you are the son of Sophia Loren, or the son of the producer, whatever, people will Google you. In those days there was no Google. So he was able to go like this, and I believe the film teaches us a lot about, I would say, the human nature. And that's what this movie, I think, it also is. And in that movie, I put a lot of different style of filmmaking: a thriller, action movie, documentary, spontaneous interview. I put all of that with this raw emotion. and that I'm very happy of the result. Yeah.
So incorporation of all those elements brought you to several awards and festival in Cannes.
Yeah, I was very happy, and actually it was the premiere, and that helped a lot because after in June the movie was released into even more movie theaters, and I remember back in those days there was Bad Boys 4, there was all these movies, and I had as many screenings almost as them, you know, in some movie theaters. So I was very happy, and people loved it. And it's, even though, you know, it's a movie that has so many different styles, at the end it's still a documentary. So it's still, you know, you're still happy when a documentary gets a movie theater screening, you know, because that's what I want, is to bring people together and to share that story, you know. These days on platform, you know, they eating while they, you know, they're cooking, they're doing something else. So I build really that movie for movie theaters.
So it's a legendary story of Hollywood.
Oh yeah,
right?
I'm glad you're saying that.
Yeah. One question before we go to your bio. How did you meet him?
Well, I was a big fan of him, of course. His books were very, you know, were iconic to me. And no, I just reached out to his lawyer. And his lawyer said, okay, I'm going to tell him about your interest to make a movie. He was not interested to do a movie originally, but he was interested to meet me. And then when he met me, he really wanted to do the movie, but I got scared, you know. And actually, he reassured me by telling me really that he would be there, that he would support me. And that's, you know, I think in the result in that movie, because he was able to really, really give himself 100%. So there is this proximity, you know, this really closeness that we have in the movie. That's really what I'm really happy and proud of.
And where is he now?
He is hiding. No, he is in Paris. He is in Paris.
Okay.
You know.
That's far away from here. David, let's talk about you.
Oh.
Yeah, tell us your story. How you end up in Hollywood, and you are very well known opera singer, and you do production of Broadway in New York. Tell us all about yourself.
Well, you know, it's for me, the documentary, it's what is actually the closest of the stage, because you can have only one take. You know, when you see he goes in the cemetery or he tells a story, you can do only one take of that. So there is something so spontaneous in this movie and in all the movies I do yet, that really for me is an extension of the stage. And I test also the movie as if it was a show, you know, to make sure there is not a single dead moment, that it's really punching and going up. That's really what I try to do. But look, I have now so many more movies, and now I'm trying to bring the filmmaking into the stage and the stage into the filmmaking. So I'm filming now theater in a new way, you know, like very immersive. I put the camera on stage, you know, that follows the actor. Something really new also. And and I hope I'm going to bring that more and more to more and more people. So
that's amazing. So you also produced a musical or off Broadway with Jackson 5, right? Well, tell me about it.
In Paris, we toured. We did an album also. That's like 12 years ago now, but it's still, people still tell me about it. Oh yeah, it was like really the mixing of opera and pop music, which at that time was really new, you know. And yeah, so honored, so delighted, and I love, of course, the Jackson German. I'm going to see them actually Saturday, so I'm very, very pleased to be in LA, in Hollywood is wonderful.
Well, you're in the right place. Besides Paris, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your interview.
Thank you so much.
Marina Kufa, you're watching News of the World. I'm here today at the movie premiere Rocancourt with criminal defense attorney Victor Sherman, Los Angeles. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. And you?
Wonderful. It's so nice to meeting you.
Thank you
And
very
it's
much.
amazing to be at this movie premiere. If you can tell us, how are you connected with David Serero and this whole project?
Okay, well, I am connected with the project because I represented Christopher both in Los Angeles and New York when he was arrested in the United States for various of his escapades, I will say. I actually met him through his wife at the time.
What a story.
Very charming man, Christopher.
Did he charm you as well?
He charmed me as well. For a long time he charmed me. But in the end, we became very good friends, and I met a lot of interesting people through Christopher. That was very interesting.
How did you choose to take this case on? Because you knew what's going on, and you guys will see it in the movie actually how smart Christopher was. You know, because you have to make a decision, am I going to take this case on or not?
Well, it's always fun for a defense attorney to take on an interesting case. So the most important thing for me at the time was if the case interests me and it's exciting and challenging, then I would love to take on the case. So that's why I took on Christopher. And of course, the money had something to do with it too.
Right. And
Although getting money from Christopher was a very difficult proposition.
how many years it took the whole
case?
Yeah.
I would say about 2 to 3 years.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't much longer than that. And Christopher's case was very interesting because at the time, California had passed a Proposition 187, which was intended to restrict immigration rights in the United States. And most of that statute was found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, except for the one provision in the Prop 187 that said if you came into this country using false identification, you could be prosecuted. And the sentence in that time was a mandatory minimum of 5 years. And as far as I know, Christopher was the only person ever prosecuted under that statute. So when he came to me, he was already looking at 5 years. And through the whole process, I got him 5 years concurrent with all of his other problems in the country.
You know what? Big shout out to you for taking this case on, because I only seen the trailer and it's breathtaking. So what was the major challenges in this case?
Well, the major challenges was to convince the prosecutors that Christopher was not really as bad as he seemed to have been, and to get them to agree that because he was getting 5 years in California, there was nothing I can do about it, that they would not increase the sentence in other jurisdictions. And he was being charged in federal court in New York, where they originally wanted as much as 12 years, and I got them to agree to give him 5 years concurrent. So he served no additional time. Plus he was able to do his time in a federal prison, which made it easier for him. So that was the major challenge, was just getting the prosecutors to recognize Christopher was an interesting character, and don't throw him in jail and throw away the key, give him a break. And we were able to accomplish that.
Yeah, that was a great acting for sure. And now we are able to see it in this great documentary produced by David Serero. So you play a big part in this story, right? Because you had to deliver the story to the director.
I did have, he found the story and then he found me.
Okay.
But the real challenge was keeping Christopher from doing more wrong things while the case is pending, because his general character was to play a big man and try to go around the country and say, oh, look at me.
I'm a Rockefeller. Right?
Well, actually, one of the interesting parts of the case was that I took my son and we met Christopher in New York, and he had the top suite at the Plaza Hotel, which was like a 2,000 square foot penthouse at the Plaza Hotel. And somehow, during the middle of the case, he gets Plaza to give him this suite. And of course, he never paid for it. So the man had a lot of talent.
Very talented.
And an interesting sidelight is it took me like 2 years to get paid, and one of the most difficult things was to get money out of Christopher, and I was actually able to do it by the end of the case.
So doing this case for you was like watching a movie.
Totally.
Watching a comedy, thriller, and action probably all together, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the idea of masquerading a famous person. Throughout history, we have people doing it, but Christopher was one of the more successful people in doing it, and he did it for a long period of time, convincing people that he was a Rockefeller, and yet, if one looked at his background, he comes from an orphanage. The man is talented.
Great actor. He should win an Oscar for that one. So, tell me a little bit about your firm, because you said your wife was connected with the movies. How is being an attorney, defense attorney in Los Angeles?
Well, I've been doing this since 1966, almost 60 years.
Wow.
I love it. It's a fun thing to do. It's like you're a gunslinger that goes into the town in the old Hollywood movies, and they employ you just for the purpose of ridding the town of the bad guys. Well, my job is kind of going into the court to do a limited job. There's always a story to tell. There's a beginning and end, and a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the end is you need to get a result. So there's always a lot of pressure, because the only way to get new clients is if you do good for the old client. So it's a lot of competitive juices in that business.
Was there any other cases that movies or documentary was made from your, from your history?
Absolutely. For instance, I represent one of the defendants in the Watergate case, a man by the name of Donald Segretti, and he was in the movie about the Watergate incidences.
Oh,
So-
I remember that. I watched this film.
Yeah. So I've had, and I did another case in which the robbers held up a bank in the valley here in Los Angeles and shot more than 100 different people over a period of time, and that became another movie. And I was also involved in the largest bank burglary in the history of the United States. They actually made 2 movies about that, in which the robbers were in the bank for 2 nights.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of different cases I've had in which they've made movies about that.
You know, we're running out of time because we have to watch, but we're going to continue in the interview part 2 because I have to hear your stories.
All right.
News of the world this evening. We are at the premiere of Rocancourt, and I'm here with a world-renowned fashion designer, Jeff Hamilton. How are you, Jeff?
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Honored to be here.
Tell me, what drew you to attend this movie premiere?
There's multiple reasons. First of all, David is one of my dear, closest friends and most talented director and artist. And in fact, I was with him in Cannes for the premiere in Cannes, and also the fact that I've known Christophe Rocancourt during the era while those things were happening. So
what a story!
We used to have dinner. We used to spend time together. In fact, when we were in Cannes, we had dinner after the premiere.
Unbelievable. He was a nice guy. Things from the movie, he was a very nice guy.
He's a very nice guy. Just like it's very difficult to judge people for what they do and they don't. And each person has their own journey in life. It's just that doesn't make a person heart smaller or bigger. It's just like it's a good person. You can tell his interaction with his kids and how really is when he talks about his family and in a way sometimes the gangsters sometimes have sometimes more values than people that do not have it for some reason, because the rules of the streets force you to be a little bit more honorable, and it's a kind of a paradox, but that's the way it works.
Very creative human being, and David did amazing job in delivering it on the screen. And you are supporting him tonight. Now, of course, amazing, stunning look with a beautiful jacket. Let's talk about your fashion a little bit. Sure. You are a legendary fashion designer. You design jackets for Kobe Bryant, for a lot of NBA stars, as well singers, and you're in the industry for for quite a bit. So
For 4 years, yeah.
So there you go. So what was your creative niche? And
I just, I moved to America from France, and my dream was to become an accountant, and one thing led to the other. I became a clothing designer by necessity, I used I focused more on the jacket because as an artist I felt like the jackets was more my canvas than other things. Even though when I moved to America, my first company, I was the first licensee for Guess Jeans for Men. So I founded Guess Jeans for Men as the first licensee of the brand. And I realized the American dream early on in my life, and I enjoyed being a creator and designing, and I've been living a very charmed life and very blessed life, working hard and enjoying everything that I'm able to create and make people happy.
would you agree that fashion is freedom?
For me, you create your own freedom. It's just it's not the freedom. I like to wear the way I feel comfortable. People tell are you okay wearing orange? I'm okay. Yeah, I feel very good in my skin. That's the way I am.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your interview.